Okay, so this is what the engine support bar looks like. It goes over the fender well, These are slidable, and here are your chains. So the chains I have in equal lengths. At least I thought I did, but the chains will need to be at equal length. So we got the chains at equal length here. So all we have to do is find a place to mount the bar up to. And we could do that. Will be grand. And then as you go underneath the car and you jack the engine up, then you would turn this, and this would allow the tightening of the motor. And so that is how that works. And so when I figure out a place to bolt it down, we'll get back to you. Okay, after some 3 hours later, I finally got the engine bar support mounted where I think it's going to hold the engine pretty good. It was a bunch of trial and error with this Vortex supercharger in the way. I got a hook to the bottom where the Vortex goes into the engine, and the part of the side of the head, and over on the driver's side I got it bolted up to a power steering bracket here, and part of the head bolt power steering bracket down here on this end. And so I feel pretty comfortable with the way things are here. So now all to do is to drain the power steering reservoir, which is under here. I got to this line here I'm going to detach, and then probably take the line loose from the transmission cooler, and then yeah, then the rack will come out, and I can do everything on the rack outside once I drain this power steering fluid. Then once I do that, you see I have the transmission jack holding the transmission up. So I'm gonna crank that up a little bit more to keep pressure on the transmission. And then I'm going to take, I got 3 floor jacks. I'm going to take a floor jack and put a block of wood right on the front here, the front section here, and that's going to lift the engine off of the K member. And then I got 2 bolts there, and then 2 bolts on the coil there, and then on the other side, and then with the jack underneath the K member, I can let the K member down, and the engine hoist should do its job up there with the transmission holding that up and the engine mount supporting the engine. And that way I should be able to move the this K member out of the way. So we'll get back to you when we get all that finished, and we'll give you an update. 7 hours later, there's the engine support bar holding the engine up. There is the K member with the hubs and racket pinion on my K member. So the K member is gone. There's the old rusty manifold pipe, the original one right there, and on the other side. So you see there's no wheel assembly, no hub, no nothing. Everything is looking good. So now we gonna take these old headers off and probably put the other headers on, and that's it. We're gonna call it a night. I'll show you how it looks around the other side. Same thing. Everything's disassembled. There's the old rusty pipe right there. The dreaded EGR valve. This is the driver's side header or manifold pipe, the old rusted manifold pipe that we took out. And there it is sitting over there. So we're doing the driver's side now, and we're gonna call it a night once I get this driver's side done. Hello YouTube Mustang family who are Mustang enthusiasts. This is Rev from my Rev It Up blog, and this is actually day 3 of my project of replacing my stock manifold pipes and getting an inch and 5/8 3/4 inch and 5/8 ceramic long tube headers and the BBK off-road X pipe. And I also have the SOP loudmouth catback exhaust system that's coming from CJ Pony. It's supposed to be here the middle of the month. Since it's going to be here in the middle of the month, I decided to do some other projects to the car while I have it here just waiting. And this is why I love doing the work myself, because now I can kind of clean up and make parts look good and repair any parts that I want to replace at this time. So day 2, which was Saturday, I got the headers installed on the passenger side and the driver's side, and I left it at that point, and I didn't do any work yesterday, and I said I was going to relax today. So I just did a little bit of work today to make my job a little bit easier, putting things back together instead of lifting a 200-pound K member. I'm just going to lift the K member up and put it in place itself, and then add the other parts to it, so I can put the K member up at least, and that will support the engine, so I don't have to have that engine hoist up there no longer than I need to. So anyway, there is the headers on the passenger side, and they're long tube headers. Okay, and you can see my Daytona 3-ton jack. It has a 24.5 lift capacity, and it also has the foot pedal where you can work the foot to lift it up as well. And I got the cross member bar under there, so you can see that bar goes all the way across. It extends out. I don't have it all the way out. I just got it enough so it will cover the oil pan and miss anything that's necessary. There's the transmission jack I got holding the transmission up. Okay, now if we come around to the driver's side, you can see the driver's side headers are installed, and you can see the EGR valve up there, and they're long tube headers, and everything bolted up pretty nice. You can see the oil pan, the size of the engine, everything. There's no oil leaks. It looks good up underneath here. So what I did, here's the K member. I took the A-frame and the struts from the A-frame. I took the power steering rack because I got a new power steering racket pinion that I'm going to put in, and so I'm going to take my time and clean this K member up, and this part of a tubular part of the K member, I'm going to shine that up and get some silver paint to go back on that, and I'm going to find some green paint to go over this K member to make that look nice and clean, get any oil residue up and cleaned up all over there. So now over here, I'm going to take the brake caliper holder off. I'm going to take the rotors off, and as you can see, my lower ball joints are badly damaged. So I'm going to take my time and replace those. I'm going to get a tubular K member, and so it's going to take away 10 pounds, I believe, and I'm going to use my lower coils, and we don't have to use the coil padding because the tubular K members come with a top and bottom cap on your springs, so you get rid of a lot of things. And I'm going to replace these strut bushings here. I'm going to replace that. These shocks are in excellent shape. Now what I'm going to do when I take the K member off, a lot of this part's just kind of rusted. I'm going to use my wheel grinder, and I'm going to sand that, grind that down with the wheel cleaner, and I'm going to paint everything nice and black, so all that rust will disappear. So the calipers are going to be painted black, which is hanging right there. You can see the bungee cord holding them up. I'm going to get new brakes. I'm going to get new motor mounts. There's the old motor mount there on the floor, and we're going to paint the calipers. We're going to paint the rotors black, and we're going to do the inside of the Cobra rim black, and the tubular K member that we're going to get, that's already black. So this is going to be much easier to get this all cleaned up, painted, and when it's dry, to get that mounted up and lined up, and I can get the engine held in place, and I can get that bracket off of there, and then I can take my time with the rest of it, putting everything back together, getting the A member, the A-frame in there, the tubular K member, tubular A-frame, excuse me, mounted back in there, and get the struts and everything put back together. And by that time, it should be to the middle of the month by the time I get all this stuff and put the racket pinion in. Here's the new racket pinion right here, and the old one is already in the box. I'm getting ready to take it back and get my $60 core charge. So that's where I am, and I'm not going to do much work today. I did all I was going to do today. I just wanted to get the there's one of the springs right there. So this coating on the bottom of the spring doesn't have to be there, and this cap doesn't have to be there. I'm going to clean those up and paint them nice and black. And so that's all the work I'm going to do today. I just wanted to get the power steering racket pinion off and get it in the box to take it back and get the K members off and the strut and start ordering parts, and they'll be coming overnight. So this is all I'm going to do today. I was saying I was going to rest today, but I got something done, and that's all that counts. All right, we'll speak at you later. Have a blessed day. God bless. Welcome back, everybody, to day 2 of my Mustang blog, revving it up. This is Reverend Graham here. I love to rev it up. We're doing day 2 of my Mustang modification of my exhaust system. I am getting BBK ceramic steel tube headers installed on my vehicle. They're 1 5/8 inch diameter, and I have stock manifold pipes on my intake with a Cook's high flow Cat X pipe, and then the Flowmaster Catback exhaust going out the back. So what I do have is I have my BBK long tube headers, and I have my BBK Catless X pipes, and also I have my new power steering rack, which I'm going to install at the same time. I'm going to do brakes on the front and hoping to paint the calipers and the rotors and the inside of my tires black. So here's where we are. You can see the high flow cats I have taken off already. You can see here that I have the spring suspension and coil kit and the A frame hanging down on this side, and also on the driver's side I have everything taken down. And so what I have yet to do is to loosen up the steering gear, take that pinch bolt out and take the steering gear off the power steering rack. I have to take the power steering hose loose to disconnect it and drain it, and then at that point get everything out of wires out of the way to get ready for the A-frame, or should I say to get ready for the subframe, not subframe, to get ready for the K-member to come down. So now where I'm stuck at is I have an engine support bar to hold the engine in place while I'm able to get under there and raise the oil pan with a jack and a block, so I can support the engine and take loose the motor mounts. And then once the motor mounts is loose, I can raise up the engine with the oil pan, hold it in place, and I can at that point take the 8 bolts out that hold a K-member in, and have a jack with a block under it to lower, to keep the engine supported, and then drop the K-member down, and then I'll have access to the headers, or should I say the old manifold pipes. So that's where I'm at now, is trying to find a location to put my engine bar to keep the engine in place. So I'll come back and we'll show you the progress we made.